Welcome. I am author D.M. Patterson, and in this video, I'm going to give you some tips on how to find time for writing. Number one, the first thing I would emphasize to anyone who says that they do not have time for writing is to be kind to yourself. Meet yourself where you are and forgive yourself. I have absolutely been there, I am there, and I know there will be times when I'm there again in the future. Life has a crazy way of being very busy, and I have found that when I'm upset at myself and I start becoming very negative towards myself and my inability to write, it's actually a lot harder to get out of that cycle and to find the energy to sit down and write because I'm so upset. Writing is a very psychological thing, just like pretty much any creative endeavor, any creative project that you have. There's a lot of having to dig inside yourself. There's a lot of having to find the right time, find the right energy, especially for projects that don't have any kind of outside deadline or commission. I have just found for myself that it's very important to keep that negativity, that guilt, that frustration out of needing to sit down and write, because there's a lot of negative energy that's being built up around needing to sit down and write. So I would say first and foremost to just take some deep breaths, allow yourself to have that grace, that forgiveness, whatever it is that you need, that space to say, yeah, I haven't had time to write in a long time, but we're going to move forward and we're going to figure out ways to get this done. The second thing that I would say is other people's goals do not have to be yours. And I say that because I have absolutely heard of all of the famous authors, and they say things like, if you're not writing every day, you're not a real author. I know of authors who write every day based on time, or based on either time, or based on a number of pages. I know there are authors who wake up at the crack of dawn and get their writing in before they have their job. I get it. I've heard it. It's very hard to hear about all of these authors who have all of these various really high goals that they meet, but their goals do not have to be yours. And I say if you're not writing every day, you're still an author. I actually feel like most authors don't write every day. I personally feel like those goals don't work for everyone, and if you cannot write every day, it doesn't mean that you're not an author. I think that you have to find things that work for you, and if you are able to find things that work for you, then great. That is your goal. You don't need to be comparing those goals to other people. I realize saying this that these big and famous authors who have these very high goals are probably have reached that level of popularity and the ability to write and support themselves just on their writings because they've had these goals. I get it. But if you are not there, if you're not able to quit your job and write full time, or if you just, even if it's not a job thing, if there are other things that are taking your time, if you're some kind of caretaker or whatever it is, I mean, life has thrown many things at us. I don't think it's good to get stuck in that frustration and guilt and that desperation for trying to reach somebody else's goal if it's just not something that you can achieve. And I think it's totally fine if you can't achieve it, because once you find goals that you can set yourself and you can achieve, that's brilliant. It doesn't have to be anybody else's. The third thing I would say, kind of going along the lines of don't compare your goals to anybody else's, is find something that you can achieve and that fits within your time frame. Once again, we have those famous authors who say you have to be writing every day. If that's not something that you can do, maybe it's every other day, maybe it's once a week. That's fine. As long as you are getting a time where you can sit down and write, perfect. Make that time work for you. Adding on to that, there are authors who either write for a certain amount of time or a certain word or page count. So you can play with that. So for example, you can say, every Wednesday, I'm going to write for half an hour. Set an alarm, write for half an hour, that's it. Go on and do the rest of the things that you need to do. Or it could be every Monday morning. I'm going to sit down, I'm going to write 2 pages, and then that's it. Go on for the rest of your day. It's so important to find things that are going to work for you and fit into your schedule and be achievable by you. And it may take a few times, it may take a few different things for you to try the timing, try the word count, try different times, try different word counts. It may take you a little bit to find what works for you. But what's really important is that those goals that you're setting for yourself are things you know that you can achieve. Once again, with writing being so psychological, it feels so wonderful to be able to have that feeling of achievement. When you know that you've accomplished that time of writing for the week or that page of writing for the day, whatever it is that you set up for yourself, when it's something that is achievable and you know you can do and you start doing it and you start being able to cross it off your to-do list, that feeling of accomplishment is so wonderful. You're going to want to keep doing it. Number 4, it's okay to ask for support. For example, I live in a house with my husband and our 6-year-old daughter and our animals. Now, my husband is very supportive of me doing my videos. He's supportive of me doing my writing, but he's not always aware of what exactly I need. So I think it's very important to sit down with the people that you have in your life, especially if you are sharing some kind of living space with them, and talk about what it is that you need for your support. Whether you lay out your schedule and say, for example, every Wednesday from 3 to 4, I'm going to be writing. If you could please do X, Y, Z. Whether that's make sure the house is quiet, take the animals for a walk, whatever that support looks like for you, having a conversation with the one or more people that are supporting you and that need to know what it is that you're doing so that they can support you in various ways is important. As I have learned, what's obvious to me is obvious to me. I may know that it's obvious that if I sit down and write, I need everyone to be quiet and potentially for my husband to take our daughter out. But it's not obvious to my husband. As much as he has been supporting me for all these years, sometimes I actually need to sit down and tell him, I need you to take our daughter out to the park or wherever for this amount of time so I can be alone and focus. Having those conversations and allowing the people in your life to support you in very specific ways and ways that they can also maintain is a really important part of moving yourself forward and getting this schedule together. Making sure your goals and what it is that you are looking for, the kind of support you need, is obvious for the people who can provide that support for you is very helpful, not only for you, but for them to know exactly what's going on and exactly what they can do. And then having that conversation, potentially you may have to switch your schedule a little bit or adjust your time frame, whatever it is. But having those people on the same page as you and working out what it is they can support while they are supporting you is really key to your success. Number 5, set up a place to write. I've talked about this before in one of my earlier videos, but it's kind of like tricking your brain, where it knows when you sit down in this spot, it's time to write, it's time to be creative. There are a lot of articles online if you are interested in doing research on what it is specifically about finding that spot. They can even tell you some tips about what kind of place to use, what you should be putting in that place. Number 6, find one thing you can cut either out completely or down from your daily schedule. Unfortunately, I am absolutely talking about that time on your phone or on the TV. I understand that sitting down and playing a game on the phone or looking through the various apps and social medias can be a very relaxing thing. And I understand that downtime and watching your favorite shows is something that is really needed, especially after a hard day. I get it. So if you can't cut something out completely, try just cutting it down a little bit. For example, if I were used to sitting down and watching 4 episodes a night, of a show. That's roughly 2 hours, give or take, depending on how long each episode is. But I'm going to, for the sake of trying to get this example out, we'll say that each show is half an hour, so that's 2 hours. What I mean by either cutting it down instead of having to cut it down completely, because I know how important downtime is. I can say, okay, I'm going to take one show off of my nightly routine and I'm going to write for that half an hour instead, and then I'm going to turn on the TV and watch 3 episodes instead. So it's not cutting it out completely, because it is very hard, first of all, to stop a habit like that completely. And second of all, I absolutely acknowledge and validate that downtime is important. And writing can be hard. Writing, especially if you have hit some kind of wall and it's very hard to write right now, sitting down to write can be very stressful. So take that half an hour, take one show away, take that half an hour, try to get something out, and then see the rest of those shows as your reward. But it doesn't just have to be TV or cutting time from TV. It's also time on the phone. So playing those games, looking through social media, whatever it is that takes up time on the phone. Now again, stopping it completely may be a little bit too harsh, too fast. So instead of saying you can't look at the phone at all for the whole day, set an alarm for a certain amount of time, and then when that alarm goes off, you cannot be on the whatever it is, flipping through social media, looking through cat memes, whatever it is that you find you spend a lot of time on the phone. Set an alarm. 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. When the alarm goes off, the phone goes down. And then you write. You write for 10 minutes, you write for 15 minutes, whatever it is. Or tell yourself you're going to write for 10 or 15 minutes and then you can get on the phone for 10 or 15 minutes. It doesn't necessarily have to be an hour or 3 hours of writing. It can be that 10 or 15 minute slot. It doesn't necessarily have to mean that you cut out TV or time on the phone or playing computer games completely. What I'm asking for is for you to just take a step back and look at your normal daily schedule and see what you can trim down to add in that writing. Not even, again, cutting it out completely, just finding a small amount of time where you can lessen this a little bit here, add writing in there, and keep on going. And I think that you might find that when you take that one episode out and you're writing, you may continue writing for those 2 hours instead of going back to the TV. Or you may find that half an hour difficult and frustrating, but then you still have a few episodes of TV that you have allowed yourself to watch and you still have that downtime. Again, these goals that you are setting up for yourself are to work in your favor. They are for you. They need to be tailored for your schedule, and they need to be something that you can achieve. There may be days when you cannot write at all, and that's okay. If your goal is to write 1 day a week, then that's great. If your goal is to write 1 page every 2 weeks, if that's what works for you and if that's what you can get squeezed in, then that is amazing. And that's so much better than not writing anything in those 2 weeks and being stuck in that frustration that you just don't have the time to sit down and write. Number 7, find an accountability partner if you can. If that will work for you, then ask somebody who supports you to ask you at a certain amount of time, say every Sunday, whatever it is, if you have written that week. Go over your goals with that person. Let them know what your schedule is going to be and what you're aiming for. Accountability partners are really great for pretty much every aspect of life. For example, a lot of people who want to do dieting and exercise also try to get an accountability partner. It's a great way to remind yourself that someone's going to be asking you if you've done what you want to do. I cannot emphasize enough that these are all just ideas to get you thinking about what might work for you. You may come up with something completely different, Or you may try one thing and after a few times realize that you need to switch over to something else. And that's fine as long as you are working towards that goal. As long as you have gotten yourself out of that downward spiral of being frustrated and guilty for not writing. My goal with this video is to give you some inspiration, some energy towards finding ways that are going to work for you, that are manageable, and that are yours. And to help you lift off that guilt of not reaching other people's goals and the expectations that other people have put on themselves. If it's not attainable, if it's not achievable, then don't worry about it. You set up what is attainable and achievable for you. Set aside that guilt, set aside that frustration, start looking for ways where you can dig in a little bit of time for yourself. You will find as you start achieving your own goals, that sense of accomplishment is going to help you keep moving forward. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this has encouraged you. If you have any other tips, please comment down below and let us know different ways that you have found to get writing squeezed into that schedule of yours. Now, go write.